You know, David Eby, frankly, I'm surprised he's a lawyer. He was the Attorney General who got absolutely humiliated when he tried to stop the Trans Mountain expansion. He had a judicial he passed a law to say BC could regulate an interprovincial pipeline. The BC appeal court unanimously said, no, you can't.
Oh, yeah.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. How y'all doing? So we've got Rosemary Barton live here. She's with former Premier Jason Kenney. He was the former Premier of Alberta, and he is going to destroy the current Premier, David Eby of British Columbia. He's a Chinese plant, right? There's no doubt about it. Who is he fighting for? The Chinese, in the guise of doing it for Canadians in some tree-hugging effort for the Indigenous. He cares about none of the people in British Columbia. Give me a break. He cheated to win his seat, to win the election. You know that was PRC interference. Let's see if Rosie Barton will expose any of that, or maybe she will just let Jason Kenney destroy David Eby here on CBC network, like the Legacy News. Slamming David Eby, that's a good one to see, or allowing it. Let's take a look. Let's check out how this is going to go. Do not trust David Eby, not for a second.
Sunday, we are learning more details around Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's push for a new pipeline from her province to the northern coast of British Columbia. It's part of a memorandum of understanding over the future of Alberta's energy sector that CBC News has learned is expected to be signed as early as this Thursday. The plan could transform Canada's energy sector, and it's already causing some tension between provinces.
We are making a very, very strong case that building a new pipeline to Asian markets is in the national interest. We are finding some receptivity on the part of the new Prime Minister.
Those discussions are ongoing. They have been constructive.
There
is a prospect of an agreement. It's not yet finalized. In my experience in these things is when things aren't final, it's better not to overly speculate on where they're going from there.
Still, CBC has learned that the agreement between the federal and provincial governments is expected to include language about a path forward for the potential pipeline project. Ottawa could also partially relax the law from the Trudeau era that bans tankers from BC's northern coast. Despite the many roadblocks still ahead for Premier Smith, including, of course, the lack of a proponent, many see the expected MOU as progress for the Premier in the province, who has long been advocating for a new pipeline and for better relations between Alberta and Ottawa. And the former Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, joins me now. Nice to see you in person.
Good to be here.
It sounds like we are on the verge of this memorandum of understanding between Ottawa and Alberta as early as Thursday. And it would apparently sort of get the province closer to the idea of a pipeline. How big a deal is this for Alberta?
Well, it's a huge deal for Canada. Sure. This is our largest export product by far. We sell $150 billion worth of Canadian crude, primarily from Alberta, every year, which is generates more wealth and more jobs than any other export industry. But we continue to be blocked by egress issues, pipeline issues. And if we got that done and added, let's say, something like 1 million barrels a day, we'd be selling, that would be generating something in the range of $25 billion of additional value, which is probably about $5 billion of taxes and royalties. I mean, that's stuff to build hospitals and stuff. So in an aging population, with the big trade challenges coming from south of the border, I think we have to do things like this, and I'm glad to hear there's progress being made on it.
It does sound as though the big hurdle will be, of course, British Columbia. First Nations on the coast have issues with the idea of another pipeline. The Premier is very upset that he has not been included in these conversations, doesn't like the idea that a tanker ban may be lifted or exempt for some sort of future project. What do you make of the hurdle that is British Columbia? Those are real concerns they have.
Well, in due course, if there is a specific project that applies for a permit from the National Energy Regulator, the British Columbia government would have every right to make its representations at the time, to express its concerns. But David Eby, frankly, I'm surprised he's a lawyer. He was the Attorney General who got absolutely humiliated when he tried to stop the Trans Mountain expansion. He had a judicial he passed a law to say BC could regulate an interprovincial pipeline. The BC appeal court unanimously said, no, you can't. No. This is a federal, exclusive federal jurisdiction, upheld unanimously by the Supreme Court of Canada. So I would say to Mr. Eby, do you believe in the Constitution and the rule of law or not? And are you on Team Canada or not? Because all of this this whinging that he's doing is has already it's out of bounds. It's unconstitutional. BC cannot stop interprovincial infrastructure like this.
They can't stop it, but they can certainly raise their concerns around it, and that is what he's doing. And he hasn't been consulted. So,
well, listen. Why doesn't he consult British Columbians? Every poll I've seen in the last year indicates a significant majority of British Columbians support this. And by the way, on First Nations. I don't buy the notion that there's a widespread opposition. When that was actually tested on the Trans Mountain expansion, the Supreme Court upheld a trial court finding that 111 of 119 Indigenous communities that had some putative interest were either supportive or neutral, and ultimately got built, as you saw, with very limited actual resistance. Same with Coastal GasLink. We heard a lot of noise about a couple of allegedly hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en. It got built with the support of every elected council there. And so what we have found is, as long as there's equity participation available to Indigenous communities, I have seen overwhelming support amongst Western Canadian First Nations for projects like this.
okay, what about the idea of just increasing the Trans Mountain pipeline? That is something that the Premier Eby does support, and there is additional capacity there.
Sure, I would take a both-and approach, but I do hope that they can focus on that as a constructive point of agreement without allowing the dispute over a potential Northwest pipeline to disrupt it. You could, the Trans Mountain Company, which is a Crown corporation, federal corporation, could expand by upwards of 300,000 barrels a day, shipments down to the Port of Vancouver, dredge the harbor, which means more capacity loaded into the tankers that come out of there safely. That would be really helpful. And Enbridge has some proposals to optimize their pipeline network that could also increase shipments. And I'm an advocate of finishing the Keystone XL project. It's no longer KXL technically, but that gets Trump to buy into additional Canadian exports. It would be a lot simpler and a lot cheaper to get that done, probably a lot more quickly as well.
In order for this agreement to go forward, there are things that Alberta will have to do around carbon capture and storage, around emissions.
Come on, Rosie.
Is this kind of the Prime Minister's attempt to put the ball in Alberta's court and say, if you really want to do this, let's get you to commit to some movement on that front?
Well, I think that probably reflects his view, the federal government's view, and I think Alberta would say, welcome to the party. We were the first subnational jurisdiction, or the first jurisdiction in North America with an industrial price on carbon emissions, and Ralph Klein did that in 2005. And we used those resources in part to pay for the first large-scale CCUS, carbon sequestration projects in Canada, including the carbon trunk line that's taking sequestered CO2 off of refineries in the Edmonton refinery complex and injecting that into central Alberta, into the sedimentary basin there. So you've got this stuff that's already happening thanks to Alberta and industry leadership. Pathways has been leaning forward on this. So in principle, I think an agreement is possible there, as long as the cost is reasonable. Because if only the Canadian industry is having to pay for tens of billions of dollars of carbon sequestration infrastructure, and their competitors from Saudi Arabia to Russia to Texas are not, then we're at a huge global disadvantage.
Is a pipeline, do you think it's likely, given what we were just talking about in terms of capacity and increased capacity and other options? Another pipeline, is it likely?
It's possible. I would say a new Northwest Coast pipeline going to be hard to do. But if we get the right policy environment, lifting the emissions cap and the tanker ban and so forth, I think a proponent will come forward because the value is just enormous. Once you're shipping that amount of energy, you're talking over its lifetime about hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue being generated. That spins off tolls that easily pays for the infrastructure over time.
Okay. Jason Kenney, nice to see you.
Oh, yeah.
We'll wrap it up right there, gang. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Did Rosie do a good job? Do you like David Eby? Did you ever vote for this guy? What a clown he is, man. Bought and paid for by the PRC. Hard to prove, but look at his actions. Who is he in business for? The people of British Columbia, the Indigenous, wouldn't seem that way to me. It's the PRC. Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney, like, share, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. Ciao for now.